My name is Nicole. I'm from Mamtasita Soul Sessions. This is my first podcast, and I've been thinking about this for a long time. How do I start? What do I talk about? How I start doing that? I channel a lot too. I'm in connection. I'm connected to my spiritual guides all the time. So this is a calling I have to do. I'm still not quite sure where to start. So I thought I start at the beginning. When I had my little boy 16 years ago, he had a very difficult birth, and I'm gonna do like a birth story on that one because there's so many birth stories out there which have been so traumatizing. And birth is traumatizing. It is such an important, vulnerable place to be, birthing your own child. It's another story for another time. But the birth of my son traumatized me badly. And 1 year later, I realized that I was depressed. Back then I had I didn't quite know what trauma was, because I had nobody around me who had been traumatized, who was talking about it or something. It just didn't occur. But when shit hit the fan, we've seen a therapist, and he said, "Do you guys actually know you're traumatized?" And that made me so happy to hear that, because he could label that actually. It meant for me, okay, I'm not crazy. So it's not me. There is something bigger than that. So something happened, and it has been difficult, and it's okay to feel like that. So he gave me a book, and I thought, okay, wow, I have a book, so I can read about it, and then I'm gonna be good again. So it hasn't been that easy just to read a book, but it helped a lot to talk about it. So, and I think that is the calling here too, that I have to talk about things, because if I do my healing sessions, which I call soul sessions, I have so many people, and it doesn't matter. They are young, they are old, they are men, they are women, they are moms, they're not. But everybody has its story. We all have a backpack. We all have our story, and I can relate to so many stories. And I like to talk in my sessions about my stories too, but I want to be careful, because I don't want to waste the time with my stories. And it's not about me, it's about them. But talking about my stories for my clients or for my followers, that they know that this is actually all right, that is actually normal, to go through things, to go through healing, to be aware, to to surrender, to open up to new things. And that's why I thought, talking about certain things helps me, but helps others too. Because I haven't talked about so many things for so many years anymore. Because life goes on, I'm a mom, my kids grow up, my youngest daughter, she just turned 3. So I'm a busy mom. I have a teenager and a toddler. I mean, that is crazy. What I have lately is that I get signs all the time. I'm connected to my guides, and I get messages that I need to do it, that I need to get out there, that I need to talk, doing a podcast, which is not my first choice, definitely not. But what I also have lately is thinking about my past, because the past year, I go through healing all the time, all those years, there's so many things, there's always something to heal and to grow, evolve, which is amazing. Going through transformation is not always beautiful, but it does have its purpose. Anyhow, lately I'm thinking about so many things, because I had a wild life. I had a very interesting life. I've been traveling a lot. I used to live in England. I used to live on Canarian Islands. I'm living in Spain. I used to live many years in Australia. So I've been married before. So there's so many. It feels like I had so many different lives, and I've been through traumatic experiences, and thinking about my past and I can feel my past, how I've been feeling back then. I can smell the memories. So I really like to be alone at the moment. As a mom, you're never really alone. And I like to spend time with my partner too. But at the moment, my favorite thing is just to be alone with myself. And the best places for me to be connected to my spiritual guides. I love that feeling. I love the energy. I love to do that. It is so smart. Energy is something I can relate to. That's something I can understand, and I can feel it. And that does make sense to me. And life itself, how it works, like going to work from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or, drinking alcohol, going dancing on the weekend, or watching TV after work or something. That is something it doesn't make sense to me. We don't have a TV. We have Netflix, we have computers, so if we want, then we choose it. But we never come home and we put a TV on or something. And I don't want a life from 9 till 5 o'clock, and then pick the kids up from kindergarten or school, and then just go shopping quickly, do dinner, and then the kids have to go to bed because they have to wake up in the morning again. That is something, it doesn't make sense to me, and I never had this life. I had that life only short term. And it was never my intention to live that. But I had to when I went back to Germany. So I had to live that life for a time, which is okay. That's not what I want to say. What I want to say is that life itself, how it is supposed to be normal, isn't normal to me. Spiritual life, energy, frequency, that is normal to me. That speaks to me. That is something I can feel. And I remember when I realized that, and I thought, oh, I'm not crazy, because it was like I never fit in the system. I never fit in to life. I always felt wrong. So my spiritual thinking, being, and even this explaining it, even that is for me. So why do I need to explain that? Why don't you just feel that or realize that? Why can't you not get it? Because it is so normal to me. So it's really difficult for me to explain that, because it is and it was always normal to me. I never questioned that, but I got questioned all the time. When I was a kid, when I grew up, I never quite fitted in, because I'm different. And today I'm 47, and I'm so relieved that there was a time when I was an adult, but when I realized I'm not alone, and that there are so many people out there who actually think like me, who are maybe not exactly like me, but kind of. They are my kind of people. And it is a very beautiful thing to realize that. And I know that there are so many people out there who don't fit in the system, who know that there is more than they can see, more than they hear, more than what teachers are talking in school or what they learn at work, whatever. There are so many people out there who need that hand and this help, that there is more to life. And that's why I'm doing this. So I will pause now and get ready for the first story I'm gonna tell you. So, my son was born 16 years ago, and I was in labor for 4 days. So the shit hit the fan, and I almost died. He almost died. He was severe disabled. They had to do like a cooling to save his brain functions, and luckily my son is healthy today, but that has been very traumatic for me. In the beginning, people said, "Oh, you maybe gonna struggle afterwards, and I thought, why are you saying that? Yeah, I'm always positive, you know. Everybody who knew me knew I'm funny, I'm positive, I'm I'm a happy person, and I thought, I'm just so happy that my baby is healthy and that I had him. And it was 1 week where he was on NICU, but he was fine now. And I thought, no, I'm not. But I had no idea about trauma back then. And they were right. 1 year later, for his first birthday, I was super skinny. I was kind of broken. I was only living for my son, and I adored him. There was nothing which was interesting to me. Only my son. I really, really enjoyed being a mother, his mother. Me and my husband back then, we drifted apart. It was like my husband before that, he used to say, I love you unconditionally. And I never understood. I never understood that. I never could feel that. I didn't know what he actually meant with it. It sounded nice, but I didn't know what it is. And when my son was born, I knew what he was talking about. Because I knew what really love is. Starts off very well. And it was like that I didn't love him anymore. I lost the love for my husband. It was like I loved my son so much I had not enough love for him. Or it was like that is now real love, and what we have is not actually love. So we drifted apart. We've been together for 5 more years actually, but they weren't good 5 years. But I just tried and kept it going for my son. I never wanted him to be without his dad, or being a kid of separation, or I didn't want to be separated too, like a divorcee single mom, who wants that? So I really tried hard. I tried for him, for my son, because I never wanted my son to ask me, why did you actually leave my dad and I didn't have him? So I really fighted for that. And in the end, it just was the best decision. When I saw my son standing in front of his dad and saying, you are a very stupid man, because he yelled at me, and my son came between us, and he was 5 or almost 5. He was almost 5, and he said, "You are a very stupid man, talking to mom like that." And when he said that, I knew it's over. I didn't want my son to grow up with that. So that's how we separated back then. And but I need to, it's many years ago, so I need to go back in time a little bit. So a few years before, my son, he was 1.5 years, and the relationship to my partner was already really tough. It was after he was cheating cheating on me, and that really broke me. That was, um, yeah, that was actually harder than the birth of my son, because my husband made me feel safe, and so I lost that instantly. I couldn't trust him anymore, and he was my person. I never, 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 never imagined that he is able to do that. And I really felt loved, even though it didn't work out so well, but because I knew we are so struggling after this birth, I thought we're gonna go through a rough patch, but that's fine. But when this cheating happened, it was really, really rough for me, because I was traumatized, and life was, for me personally, quite hard. So we had a rough patch, and I had this lady, there was a lady talking to me on the street. We lived in Berlin back then, and she said, like, she was psychic, and she was just talking to me, and she said, I see this and this, and you are this and this, and blah, 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 and if you have time, I can. And I had that 6 months before, another lady, and she knew so many things about me too, which she was reading through my aura, but I gave her nothing, but she knew so many things, and I thought, wow. So that shook me a little, because I didn't believe in that so much back then. It wasn't that I didn't believe at all, but it didn't fit my lifestyle. That was odd. Well, then 6 months later, I met another woman, and she had even more information for me. And I thought, okay, this is a sign now that a second time around and my relationship is on the rocks, so I'm going to listen to her. And she gave me like a little route, and she said, go in the bathtub and bath with it, and then you take a little bottle, you put this piece in the bottle and the water you've been bathing in. So that's what I did. And she said, and then wait 3 days, and then you will splash the water straight in the whole house. And I was so desperate, and she knew so many things, that I thought, maybe there's more. Maybe there's more. So I tried that. And then 3 days later, we had that was actually the day where we had our anniversary back then. And I just realized that many years later on that day, I gave birth to my daughter. I just realized that. That is so odd. No, it's not odd. It's so beautiful. Wow. It's odd that I didn't think about it before, but it's life, and it's many years ago. So anyway, there was this day. He was at work, and we've been sending messages, and the messages were more like, you did me wrong, you cheated on me, you did that to our family, it's your bullshit, you cracked the family, it's not my fault, how could you do that to me? This kind of stuff. So, and it went back and forth and back and forth, and my mood was so bad, and so I was hiding my phone, because I felt so bad for my little son who was so happy, and I thought, and I'm sending messages with his father, and we are so nasty to each other. And I thought, okay, I put away my phone and just spending time with my son. And then in the evening, I thought, where's my phone? And I was hiding it quite good. So it took me a while till I found it. So I found my phone, and I had this message from my best friend. She helped me in that time a lot. We were talking every day on the phone, and she was the only spiritual person I knew back then. So I had like a message, and this message said, "Call 80 explanation point." And I thought, call 80. So I called 80, and then nothing happened. So I called her and I said, "What did you mean with the message?" And she said, because I had a missed call from her too, and she said, "What message?" And I said, "Yeah, well, that message you were sending me." And she said, "I didn't send you a message." I said, "Well, you did. Call 80. And she said, "Nicole, I get goosebumps. I didn't send you a message." And she said, "When did you get that message?" And I said, "To that time." And she said, "I couldn't have sent you a message because I went up the stairs," because she remembered when she parked and she saw that time, how late it was. And she was living in her apartment. It was the top floor. It was a huge house. So she knew she was going up the stairs. And then she called me an hour later or something like that. So that was quite interesting. And so she checked then online, like, 80, what is the meaning of that? So we had, like, she had 8 and 0, and in the alphabet it was H and O, so Ho. So she Googled Ho, and the first thing coming up was Ho'oponopono. It's a Hawaii shamanic ritual for forgiveness. And that was exactly what I needed that day. And since that day, I did Ho'opono every day. And every problem I had with anybody, I was forgiving. So I was obsessed with that. And it worked. It worked so well. So, and 2 months later, I was lucky that I did like a workshop. They came to Berlin, and it was just perfect timing. So I did that then too. But that's not the story. So I got this message that day, and I fell asleep. And my husband never ever forgot his key. And that night, it was ringing at the door. And before it was ringing at the door, it was just, seconds apart. So first, I got a message from my phone, like bing, and that's why I woke up. And I heard the bing was my phone, and I got the phone, and then it was ringing at the door. And I had my phone in my hand, and I could see from outside the message. Back then, it was not a smartphone. So I could read the message. It was from my husband, and it said, "Call 0 explanation point." And I thought, what? And I had goosebumps everywhere. I was shaky. I was almost afraid. I wasn't, but it was dark at the door. Somebody was ringing. I had this message, and that was so odd, getting this message now with another number from my husband. So I've been to the door, and I could look through this little hole in the door, and I asked, "Who is there?" And then my husband said, "It's me, open the door." And I opened the door and I said, "Did you just send me a message?" And he said, "No, I couldn't. I was walking up the stairs." So he said exactly the same sentence like my friend. And that's how it all started. That is something, this story, you can't just make this up. I had to believe in more than I believed till that moment. That really shaked my world. And my friend, I got messages the next day and the other day after, so 3 days in a row, the same message, call 80, exclamation point. And I always called and I said, "You're kidding me now." And she said, "I promise." No. So I got that message 3 days in a row, but I always had the message only once in my phone. Only the time changed. And after 28 days, the message got deleted. It just disappeared. It was just gone. But to that time, I was doing 28 days Ho'oponopono already. And to be fair, it healed a part of our relationship, definitely. We had 4 or 5 years more together. And we had some happy times afterward too. Yeah, so it was worth it for a time. Anyhow, my friend, she called her company, which are connected to the phone, and she asked, "My friend got a message, but I didn't send her a message. Can you just see if I sent her a message?" And that guy said, "Nope. To that time, there has been no messages sent from your phone to that number." And she said, "Okay." So I did the same because my husband, after Australia, he bought back in Germany, in Berlin, he bought our phones together, or the SIM cards, the numbers and stuff. So they were all connected to one. And I called that man and I said, "Did my husband, he sent me a message to that time and he said he didn't, can you just check that?" And he said, "No, there has been no message sent from that number to your number." Not to that time. Yeah, so that was the beginning of my spirituality, because there was no way that I could not believe what was happening there. That was new, that was different, and that was something nobody really could explain. And it made me, if somebody would have said that before, I probably would feel, or I probably would thought that I would feel afraid. Not afraid. I'm not afraid person, but odd. But this experience to realize there is more to life than what we learn, that was the best day of my life, actually, because it opened so many doors and it helped me to understand myself better. Because then I was more open to other things, so I could receive more things. And having a spiritual life and a spiritual mindset, because I believe in that, I have an inner knowing to it. That is much more fun than the life I had before, because that didn't make sense to me at all. So that's what I want to share with you today. Thanks for listening. Bye.